Hey guys, I just wanted to make this quick video where I talk a bit about my thoughts on our situation regarding the pandemic. It's been a bit over a year since it has started and countries really started to lock down. Personally, if you asked me, I never would have thought it would last this long. I was looking forward to going to conventions and vacation during the summer, but that's no longer happening. A little disappointing, but what can you do? Anyway, where are we now after a whole year? Well, to start off, we can barely see the light at the end of the tunnel. But how we progress from here is very important because if we don't be careful, we could be in for another wave. Obviously not one that will spike to 200,000 infections per day, but it can easily extend this pandemic by at least another few months. And trust me, I am just as sick of this as you are. Ultimately, what will bring the numbers down are the vaccines. We now have multiple different options and production is ramping up. Joe Biden promising every American the vaccine by May 1st is somewhat optimistic. Just keep in mind that just because every adult is eligible does not mean you will get it on May 1st. I can imagine very long wait times. But nonetheless, I want to remain positive. Once we reach herd immunity, which will be somewhere around 60 to 70% of people vaccinated, then we can truly return to our normal lives. Masks have become so common that I haven't shaved in ages. I can't wait to get rid of them. But anyway, COVID will never really leave. It's going to still circulate in our population forever and become as common as the cold or the flu. It may be a virus that leaves a permanent imprint on our gene pool. Can you imagine that? Anyway, one thing I do want to briefly talk about is the distrust for science. The other day I made a tweet saying if you don't trust science, you should refund your smartphone, turn off the lights, stuff like that. And it's so true that a ton of things we take for granted today was made possible only through science. And the same scientific methods and principles apply when we talk about things like medicine too. That's why it's so important to trust science in general. Why is it that people trust doctors and biologists less than they trust scientists that build your electronics? It's time to realize that people just think they themselves are smarter than they actually are. It's such an American thing to believe in things that are literally anti-science. And oh boy, has social media not been helping. It's so easy for misinformation to spread these days, and just turning my head in any direction, I can see pseudoscience channels everywhere. Sorry, that's my phone. Especially regarding this pandemic, and since it's the prime time of rolling out vaccines, guess what people are distrusting now? Yep, that's right, the vaccines. And the thing is, most of these people who are spreading anti-vax messages aren't actually anti-vax. They're just a tad step above them, saying, okay, vaccines work, but so-and-so, usually involving things like personal freedom or look at all the negative side effects. But you can tell instantly that these people have no understanding of science whatsoever, just from the way they speak about the situation. For example, if you hear about a specific side effect, a common person may be scared and not want to take the vaccine anymore. Meanwhile, scientists understand the rate of these side effects, how they can be prevented, and the fact that out of millions of doses administered, there has only been a couple of cases. So it's not enough to just look at one-dimensional information posted on the internet, but to be able to think critically and scientifically. And that's kind of the pattern I see in a lot of these pseudoscience proponents on YouTube in all topics related to COVID, not just vaccines, where not only do they only take in surface level information without going to reliable sources and scientific articles, but they also try to make it political. Seriously, this pandemic is a public health issue. Please don't go out of your way to push it into politics. I might make a video here and there about it soon, we'll see. We all know how YouTube treats anything that discusses the pandemic, so what can we do? What can we do about that? So anyway, at this rate, it is very possible that we don't hit the 60 to 70% mark to reach herd immunity. As long as people like Tucker Carlson exist, we will always have batshit crazy people who openly oppose science. This country is just so messed up. But anyway, that's why I take pride in doing what I do here. We need more channels that speak up for science. Because it feels like half the country actually thinks science is an opinion or something. Does this even exist in other countries? Definitely not to the same degree. And every time I open YouTube and see another person speaking against vaccines, I lose a bit more hope in humanity. Now, here's something you may disagree with me on, and I'm going to say it anyway. I am not against vaccines being straight up mandatory. In most other countries, I wouldn't take this stance, but the United States just has way too many stupid people. And if it were just for your own health, then fine, you can choose to not vaccinate. But the issue here is that vaccines affect everyone around you, especially the vulnerable. So when there's something this serious like a pandemic going on that has killed hundreds of thousands of people in this country alone, and we might not have enough people willing to vaccinate to reach herd immunity, you bet the idea of mandatory vaccinations sound appealing. And I'm not even ashamed of saying this. Fuck your politics, fuck your wrong opinions. With the amount of distrust the US has for scientists, I don't see many good solutions. Should you educate more people? But then how do you do that? And would people even be willing to be educated? Or is it hopeless enough that we should just screw everything and make things like vaccinations mandatory? I'm sorry, but I'd rather this pandemic not extend for another half a year because people have brains the size of cashews. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your opinions. But anyway, I apologize if you can hear the frustration in my voice. Feels like I've been sitting in my tiny, tiny apartment for like a million years now. And even if we vaccinate most people in the country, there are still variants to think about. It literally never ends. Time to just move back to China or something.